Hey everybody, Rory from ANSgear. We're going to do an install on a stock today. This is a Tippmann 98 collapsible stock. I believe it is a 6th position, either 5 or 6 position collapsible stock. It's pretty straightforward, something you'd see on an M4 or a similar style gun. It does have the sling loop mount at the bottom, heavy duty construction. Now it is meant to mount up to a 98 custom or a custom pro model 98. Anything that has the back cap style on there, so even some of the like the Army series, the Alpha Armies, it'll fit those guns as well. If anything, if it was designed to fit a 98 custom, or if you had a 98 custom style, this will fit on that particular gun. One thing you do want to remember is on the top right here, there is a little index marking. You want to make sure that that is always facing in the up position. Otherwise, you could put it together improperly and crack it, or potentially crack the body. Pretty hard to get it wrong though, because it's supposed to fit only one direction. So for this particular model here, we're using a Platinum Series 98 Custom to do the install. Makes it a little bit easier because the back half can be removed without touching the front half. If you have a Model 98 style or 98 Custom before the Platinum Series, and you have to take off the whole thing, you're going to do a little bit more work to get to the position where we're at right now. So if I've already removed my screws. Like I say in all the videos that have to do with Tippmann guns, when you're removing bodies or taking anything apart, be very careful when you remove your halves that you don't lose any springs or screws or pins. And don't just yank it apart, because everything will want to shoot out at one time. So I've already got my screws slightly undone. I'm going to start wiggling this back and forth to get it up and out of the way. I'm always watching my back cap here to make sure that it isn't coming up as well, because if this lifts up, it'll shoot right out the back of the gun. And then my trigger, my springs, everything inside here. You can see my trigger guard is already fallen out. So I'm going to just keep wiggling it. When I get it to a certain point, like right about here where it's pretty loose, I'm going to push down on the cocking knob right here to make sure that the hammer is sitting in the bottom position, that everything is down, and then I'll go ahead and take it off. Now from right here, I'm going to inspect the trigger grouping, make sure the pins are there, my trigger spring, my sear spring are all in position, everything looks good. So then I'll go ahead and attack this part back here. The easiest way to do this so that things don't go shooting out all over the place is to hold down the hammer and the power tube with your hand, and then we're going to lift up the cap, and then we can let it come backwards like that. Now your cap is going to come off, and the spring and the drive nail or the spring guide will all come out. If you happen to be using a 98 Custom with the ACT technology in it, you will find that there is an extra spring that is up here on the top. Now you'll have 2 holes drilled. The big middle hole right here, which is where the spring guide is going to go in there, just like that. But there's also, you can see all these holes around the outside, but there's one hole at the top that is kind of offset, which is right there. Put this thing in there. That's going to be the hole where your ACT technology spring would go inside there. But since we're not using a gun with that, it doesn't matter. But this stock is compatible with both if you were to use it. So we'll put our drive nail back in our spring. We're going to go ahead and mount the spring first inside there like that. I found it easier. You can do it any way. You could do it this way first also if you wanted to put it in this part right there and then push it all together. Sometimes I find the spring likes to wiggle around if you do that. So I do it this way. Spring into the hammer first. Less wiggle room for anything to get wonky on you. Put your spring in, and we're going to compress down, holding down to our hammer, and set it in place right there. Okay. Now that's lined up inside there. Our hammer's in position. Before we go ahead and put our top back together, let's put our trigger guard back in place. Like that. Move that out of the way. And then we're going to go ahead and put our halve on. Again, inspect everything. Make sure your springs are all together. Your pins are in the right spot. And then we can go ahead and put this back on. Now you want to make sure that this is in the right position to let everything snap back down in there and drop it all in place, just like that. Then we will go back through. We tighten up all of our screws, There. Just going to do a quick tighten on all these. There. There. These two at the back. We're going to make sure everything stays in place with your stock. And we're all together. Now I've got our stock installed. Right there. Cock that back. You can go ahead and fire the gun. Make sure that that is all doing the same job it's supposed to do. And everything looks good. So the install is pretty straightforward. It's a little bit more difficult if you have an older model, 98. But with the Platinum series, very, very easy. Even with the anti-chop technology version, still very straightforward on the install. So this has been how to install the Tippmann 98 collapsible stock. The stock's available through the website. You can order it now through ANSgear.com.